Well, I would describe my walk with God in my early years as a Christian as very frustrating because I knew how I was supposed to live, but I didn't have the power to do it. I was trying to live out of my own capabilities or my own resources. But when I got out of the Navy, I returned back to the Catholic Church because that's what I knew and that's what I felt most comfortable with. And that's where I met my wife, at church. Well, the stroke happened just a little bit more than 12 years ago. So we were driving in the van, and all of a sudden I just kind of slumped down, kind of like I had fallen asleep and had a stroke. So they did a flight for life for me from there to Hays, Kansas. I was starting to come to an understanding that I was disabled on the left side of my body. My left arm and left leg don't work. So I couldn't sleep one night and was praying, but my prayer quickly turned to anger. Telling God, you got the wrong guy, you got this one wrong. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. And so my prayer was to heal me or let me die. And I didn't believe God was going to heal me, so really I was praying that God would let me die. In my anger, even God spoke to me that night and said, no, you're not going to die from this, you're to be transformed by it. And I didn't know what that meant at the time until I got home a few weeks later out of the hospital. I was home. A friend of mine would come by and visit me, and I told him that story about, no, you're not going to die from this, you're to be transformed by it. And he said, Bruce, there's a verse in the Bible that you ought to take a look at. And he opened up Romans chapter 12 that says, don't conform any longer to the patterns of the world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so when I read that, it's kind of like a light bulb went on in my head that, that was God speaking to me, and that's what I'm to do, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I feel that's the journey I've been on. I like to think of it as a ship. The ship hasn't arrived yet, but at least it's underway. Part of the transformation really went from practicing religion to being in relationship. And it was doing what I could do to be a good boy and to do good works for God. But now my passion comes from knowing God and having a certain freedom to worship Him for who He is and expecting more out of God. The other way, I guess, it transformed me was from being in a place of hopelessness to hopefulness. I learned that there was more of God than I was experiencing, and I seeing those around me what a spirit-led life looked like, and I wanted whatever it was they were drinking. And that's been a tremendous transformation in my life, is just the expectation of hearing from God and seeing God move and work in our midst. God has used me to be a blessing to others that have been in hopeless situations, that there is hope, there's hope in Jesus Christ, and there is expectation. When we're praying, we're just not praying to the air, we're praying to God who hears us and will respond in response to our prayer.